One of the things I think is really interesting about the storyline is now we're saving the world. I assume there's going to be some way to actually save the world, keep the land from sinking, which is a much bigger stake than changing world governments. But every Marvel movie, every DC movie, Buffy did it 8 times. I mean, we've seen the world get saved. Have we seen our heroes just topple a tyrannical government? Not as often. People, I guess writers don't consider that a higher stake than, saving the world. I get it. There's a reason why people save the world so often. It's because these are the highest stakes we can have, right? Unless you're saving the universe or something. But I was perfectly content with toppling this shitty, tyrannical, authoritarian government. Get them out of here. But that's still going to happen. But it's interesting he added a whole other level of stakes here where we may actually have to work with the government. Depending on what the government's motivations are. I talked just now in the Q&A. It was at the beginning of this video for the most part. Does the government want this to happen or are they trying to fix it? I just naturally assumed, it never occurred to me they would want it to happen. I naturally assumed they're working the problem. They just want to do it themselves. We don't know. I have my theory, like I said, other people have their theories. But if the government does want to save the world, then we may be in a position where we have to work with these assholes. And isn't that more interesting? We have to work with them, but then we're going to topple them afterwards. That would be the most interesting way to go. That's what made Game of Thrones so intriguing. We have this existential threat, but then we also hate each other, right? So when anytime we can add another level of complexity to everything, it's just better. So, that wasn't executed well. This we know will be executed well. Well, let's go and get into it. This is the Lost History, Joy Boy, the First Pirate. They specifically say the world will sink into the sea, not that the water levels will rise. So they think the land is going to go down. Interesting. I don't know why that would be. What the physics of that would be. Earth shrivels up smaller, I guess. I don't know. Interesting. Here's a question I posed during the reaction. Did he know? What did you know and when did you know it? That was the classic question from Watergate, right? What did you know and when did you know it? Did he know? Did any of these admirals know? We don't know. We have no idea. There's no. I'm thinking he didn't know, but you could read this expression either way. He seems pissed either way, right? So that's one of the more intriguing questions we have here. What did you know and when did you know it? These people really are laughing. I'm assuming the beer's been flowing pretty steadily. It ain't that goddamn funny. Even if it's a joke. See, if this is a joke, if he's just trying to be funny, well, we wouldn't be laughing. That's not funny. You know, I'm not saying this shit about I think that there's a chance that an asteroid can hit the Earth and destroy our life in 2029 as a joke. I don't think that's funny. I don't think it's true. It's a conspiracy theory I entertain in the back of my mind. If you push comes to shove, you make me bet money on it. If you make me bet money on it, I'm going to say I'm not betting money on it. I don't think it's going to happen. But it's something I entertain. But no part of that's funny, right? It's not a joke. What would be the joke here? What's the punchline? But man, they sure are laughing, aren't they? This is interesting. I'd believe it if it was only this country where the land is slowly sinking every year. But I ain't believing the entire world. The scope is beyond most of these people. It's just beyond them. What is his point? I think he's just trolling this dude because this is all he can do. But he always talks shit, man. He's never stopped talking shit. That son of a bitch, man. One of the best villains ever, man. OG villain. I love this line. The whole place went into a panic when the sea level rose by a meter the other day. Yep, I'm sure it would. Wait till it rises more, or technically you lower more. By the way, here's a question. He's sitting outside of the cell, Doffy's cell, with a transponder snail, so that Doffy can hear this transmission in real time. This went out. You had 10 minutes. He picks up the snail that's receiving the Vegapunk's transmission. He can go anywhere. There's like 8 floors in this prison. Thousands of prisoners. He comes here to this cell. Why? Do they have a prior relationship? Is this the most important prisoner? Why are you doing this? You're down here sitting with one of your filthy prisoners and you chose this man to do it. That's a very interesting question, isn't it? Now, maybe the author just wants us to hear Daffy's instant reaction, so there's nothing more to it. But I wonder, in a real world with real character motivations, why would he pick this person to share this information with in real time? Maybe later he's walking through and Daffy asks, "Hey, what happened?" Okay, I'll give you a synopsis. No, he came down here, got him a chair, brought the snail down here specifically to this place. No other prisoners. They've got a lot of interesting prisoners in this place, probably thousands. He chose this man. Why? I don't know. That's a very interesting question. This is a very vibrant, interesting fantasy sequence here. He says, how many meters would it be if the whole world sinks into the sea? So they show the water coming in, right? From above, it looks like. Because we're at the ground looking up just like Daffy is. Then he shows this whole place, same thing, underwater. It's completely underwater now. And then they show Daffy coming out of the fantasy sequence. That is a very good sequence. I don't know what they did in the manga, but that is a great sequence. I love that. So here we are at Fishman Island. Like we talked about in the comments. One of the few places that's going to be cool no matter what happens. They don't give a shit. Now, you could say if the ground is lowering, they would lower down more and more. The ocean stays the same? That's not how that works. Right now, the water in my cup is here. Okay? Here's the bottom of the ocean. This is where the water in my cup is. Wouldn't the water go down with it? If you just lower the... This is why I think the ocean has to rise. I don't think the land can sink. Because you only have but so much water. That's the way physics works, right? Yet two things can make this overflow. Well, really only one thing can make it overflow. The more I lower the cup, this isn't going to overflow out of the top of the cup. Because there's only so much water, right? Well, liquid. If I put more liquid in, if I dump more liquid in, this will overflow. If we assume the top of this cup is land, this will come up and overflow the top of the land, right? If I put more liquid in. Which is what happens with rising water levels, because we have water in ice caps that's frozen, that is not part of the ocean. When that ice melts, it becomes part of the ocean. That's pouring more liquid into the cup because there's ice up here above the cup. When the ice melts, the liquid falls in and then it raises the level of the water. That's how you lose landmass. That's the way that works. You don't lose landmass by lowering the landmass, because that doesn't change the level of the water. You still have the same amount of water. Now, if you lower one island, the water will rise because you're just lowering one island, and the water will take over, and the water everywhere else will be slightly lower because they had to expand over the top of the island. But that doesn't increase the amount of water. If you lower every landmass, the water just moves with it, so it all lowers at the same rate. So there's no way the ground can sink and cause a flood. You see what I'm saying? If all the land sinks. The only way that would work is if the islands are jutting land masses that are sticking up, basically mountains. You took all the ocean away. So you just lower the mountains without lowering the ocean floor. I guess that would work. But the mass has to go somewhere. You're lowering this much land mass, just the island land mass. That land mass has to go somewhere. It would basically lift up the ocean floor. Yeah, I don't know about this, man. I think it has to be... We have to be introducing new water from somewhere. That's the only way the water rises. My question was going to be, if you lower the ground, they would have more pressure because they're lower. But that's not the way that works. Because if you lower the ground, the top of the ocean also lowers. So if your ground lowers 10 feet, the top of the ocean lowers 10 feet. So it's the same amount of ocean. You have to add new water for it to be more ocean, which increases pressure, which could kill the fishermen, right? Water pressure. What killed the people that were in that Ocean Gate, whatever it was called, the submarine with the billionaires in it next to the Titanic? Pressure. The lower you go into the oceans, the more pressure there is. Pressure would technically kill these mermen. They can't just be swimming around at the bottom of the ocean. The water pressure would kill them. Now, we don't care about that. This is fantasy. But if you add more water, there's more water piled on top of you, the water pressure would increase. So even if you're okay at this water pressure, adding more water pressure could kill them. So they could have an issue here. I'm not a geologist, but from my very limited understanding of physics, I don't think you could just lower the ground and have it be a flood. Because the water also lowers with the ground, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, you're basically having the planet shrink in on itself, which already doesn't make sense because where does that mass go? I don't know. I mean, it's somebody with more scientific brains than me is going to have to weigh in on this because this doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, we have to be introducing new water from somewhere. Now, they could say the ground is sinking, and what they really mean, the water is rising. But for me, they're specifically saying the ground is sinking. But that can't be possible, at least with what I understand. And don't come back with this, it's magic shit. Even in every magic system in fictional history still has to obey the laws of physics. People still breathe air. They still drink water. They still eat food and shit out shit, right? Like, most everything makes sense from a physics standpoint except there's this magic. Okay, I can turn it into rubber. I can turn the ground into rubber. Okay, that's fine. People can't walk from their planet to the sun and eat the sun. But there's magic. Why can't they walk to the sun and eat the sun? Because that's stupid and it doesn't make any sense. So, what I'm saying is, yes, there's magic in this world, but magic doesn't mean you can lower the ground and suddenly have water rise. The water would lower with the ground. Otherwise, I could do this and this liquid would just come out and spill all over the room. You know? Like, that's not happening. That's physics, right? So, you can have all the magic you want in the world, and unless there's a fruit power that, soda go up out of cup, then the magic ain't going to affect that physics. The world functions as it's supposed to with all visual evidence unless there's a fruit power in play. We've seen that time and again. Wind blows, a sail furls, and the ship moves in the direction that the wind's blowing it. That still happens even though we have magic. Physics is still physics. So, yeah, I don't want to hear that it's magic shit. So, I don't know what's going on here, but this is definitely very interesting to think about. E is a magnificent looking bird. I will say this, we just had one of the vice admirals, or maybe he was an actual admiral. I think he's just a vice admiral. He was complaining, even if Vegapunk's lying, he's the world's most renowned scientist, he's the most famous scientist. People are going to believe him, it's going to throw the world in chaos either way. Which I think is what the elders are trying to prevent. Well, the cat's out of the bag now. So here we have York. Are you going to say everything? So she knows everything is being said. I talked about this during the reaction. Why would she know that? She didn't have a need to know. I guess he shared everything. If he knows it, they all know it, I guess. And she seems to be okay with keeping a secret. Even Vegapunk seemed okay with keeping a secret until he dies. So I think everybody agrees that this is going to throw the world in chaos, which is what the Vice Admiral just said. It is going to throw the world in chaos. We all agree on that. But Vegapunk made the calculus that if he dies, people need to know about this because he can no longer take action. He can't do anything now to prevent it. And we need to examine every invention we know he's made to see if we think any of these things could help. Like, we've got the robots, we've got the Sea King's been domesticated. We've got the jet boots where you can fly. He's building high-rise. He's got the lab phase, which is basically a city in the clouds. I wonder if he's been examining. Yeah, he basically created some of the clouds that is used for Skypiea. So he's probably trying to develop technology to rise some of these islands up out of the ocean and have them float in the air so that people can survive that way. I imagine that's probably. But if we were to look at every one of his inventions, we had a whole list. We could probably see most of them either facilitate people surviving a flood or help facilitate the things that facilitate it. Even if we're talking about building weapons for the government so they don't look too closely at what you're doing, even that's facilitating because you're keeping the government's big nose out of your business. So I just think it's interesting. If she's like, "Are you going to say anything?" Well, she's pretty dumb for being somebody smart. Her decisions don't make any sense, and she's got to understand that she's disposable to these people. So why would you ally yourselves with them? But she's letting her emotions take over her common sense. So she has intelligence, she just doesn't have common sense, I think. Here's another thing. He said this earthquake would happen just a few days after he records this. So are we saying that he recorded this within the last week? It sounds like it, right? Like he must have figured that, well, the government's on me. They're coming here. I might as well make this recording now. Maybe there was a previous version of this recording he could have made last year or something. But now this version of the recording, he talks about something that's going to happen within a week. And it happened. So this was done recently. I didn't pick up on that when I watched the reaction. That means that this recording was done within the last week. Interesting. Now here he does say it's sea levels rising rather than the ground sinking. Okay. I like this call out. The guy in the stilts. Remember that son of a bitch. I like that they all hit him with everything they got. Like Nami with Zeus. Lilith with Bubble Gun. The Bubble Gun. Brooke with whatever the hell he hit him with. And then you got, Usopp with his little, plant bombs. None of it mattered. He shrugged it all off and now he's coming right back at you. Very intimidating. I love that Robin had just enough to save them. They get stomped out. They're all flying through the air. She creates a net. She's always there for her buddies, man. Even though she's messed up right now. The whole thing about them being insects, I don't think I really fully conceptualize this. I've talked about this before. Insects are not even worth killing sometimes. They're that insignificant. You got an ant in a room. Yeah, you want to kill it if he's a scout. Like, say you like to eat in your bedroom or whatever. You don't want to see an ant scout in your bedroom or he'll bring all his buddies. So you kill him. But if you stamp your foot down and you miss him, you're not going to chase him all over through the room. You're just, okay, whatever. I took my shot. I missed. I don't care. That's how this guy sees it, right? They're so insignificant. He'll kill him, but also he won't kill him. It doesn't matter. So I like how he's running past, and you got this look on her face like she's about to die. Then she's covered in shadow, and this interesting thing happens to her eyes when she's covered in shadow. See how dark her eyes are? They get pale? I think that means she's seeing her own death. I like the color change in her eyes. That just, it's a very subtle thing that makes her look even more terrified than she already was. We're just the eyes. That's the only thing that changed was the eyes, right? The expression's the same. And then he's past her. Look at Lilith. I didn't notice her before. Over the left-hand corner. She's terrified too. Just ran past. He don't care, man. He's off on a mission now. They got to kill all the snails. And it's funny because one of his compatriots there said a couple of minutes ago, he said, nothing else matters. All secondary concerns are irrelevant. We have to kill every transponder snail on this island right now. You got to find the right one. So that's what he's finally off to do, even though he's wasting a little bit of time with them, right? He's finally off to do that, just like the rest of them are. This is interesting. He said he wished for peace, but that was his first sin. I guess no justice, no peace, right? You can't placate totalitarianism. You can't placate tyrants. So trying to do so is a sin, I guess, is to read it that way, right? He was dreaming about unlimited energy. So he basically made a deal with the devil because he thought if he could bring unlimited energy to the world, that would wash away all his sins. That's what I think I'm reading here. There it is, the mother flame. It's so pretty. Yep, sure does look like the snail we're looking for. This isn't the snail you're looking for. They keep saying destroy every single life form in the lab. Do you think the transponder snail is disguised as some other life form? A cat, a dog, a pig, something where they'll walk past it and not even think twice about it. And so him saying destroy every single life form, he's taking into account that possibility. Kill everything. Maybe the thing you kill is disguised as a snail. That's kind of interesting. Still waiting to see what the hell's going to happen with this robot. Black Hoodie's not very happy about all this, is he? Yep, the void period. Can't wait to find out what the hell that's all about. Somebody mentioned this. I didn't really pick up on this. Somebody mentioned this in a comment. The void century is even a mystery to some of the Celestials, if not all of them. Interesting. They're basically the the house slaves. Everybody else in the world, the small fries are the yard slaves. They get worse. They get worse treatment. The house slaves get better treatment, but they're still slaves. That I think to the five elders and to Black Hoodie, that's what the situation is. They don't give a shit about the Celestials anymore than they care about anybody else. They're keeping them in the dark, treating them like mushrooms. Keep them in the dark, feed them shit. They don't know either. That's interesting. Who is this son of a bitch? Is he the one that rescued, it can't be though, Big Mom back in the day? Not rescued her, but he had an encounter with her. That was her first lieutenant though, wasn't it? I don't know. I don't know who this dude is. Shut the hell up. I don't know if you've seen my first 7 reactions. Shut the hell up. I don't want to hear a single noise from you. Jesus. Yeah. His second sin, his first sin was wanting peace. His second sin was trying to decipher the poneglyphs. So is it a bad thing? We've never asked this question. Is it a bad thing to find the One Piece? We just want to find it because we want to find it. We want to solve the mystery. Is it a bad thing? Would it hurt the world? Would it hurt people? Would it cause misery? I've never asked that question before. I don't think so, but he seems to be implying it is, right? It's a bad thing. That's very interesting. Look at her look of realization. I studied books of some brilliant archaeologists preserved through sheer tenacity. This is her first indication that work survived, right? Here's an interesting thing. He said it was a sin to decipher the poneglyphs, but he doesn't regret it even a bit. So it can be a sin and it can be a bad thing and he don't regret it. So maybe it's not a bad thing. It's a sin according to the world government, but it's not a bad thing. You see, it can be that both things can be true. You can break a law and not be a bad person if the law is don't give bread to homeless people, right? There's a law that says that, and you do it. You broke a law, but you're not a bad person. So both things can be true at the same time. That's probably what's going on here. Because he just said he doesn't regret it. This poor bastard, Edison. First of all, the voiceover is great. He's just grunting, but it's good grunting. It's perfect. And then he turns the wheel and just collapses on the ground. This dude, man, he has suffered. He's had one hell of a time, man. Busted up. He is busted the hell up, man. This is a brilliant plan, by the way, to create more clouds so they can get closer to the edge. I like that. Which proves, like I was saying before, you can create cloud cover that people can stand on and be above the water, By the way, when Joy Boy first got mentioned, people were talking to me about it. I guess they've read the manga. They had read ahead and got to the point, this is how important Joy Boy was going to be. But they signified the importance without ever tipping their hand that he's somebody from the Void Century. And I appreciate the people who follow and comment, because it's always been really well done considering you guys have 2 years extra of information. You never have leading questions that can make me, okay, for instance, let's say I wasn't familiar with Superman lore and I'm just starting a Superman story. And you'd never have a question, well, what do you think, do you think, rocks from his planet would be a weakness for him, or would it be a strength? That is a very leading question that basically spoils it without spoiling it, right? That's a stupid example. I'm just saying, just off the cuff, that would be the kind of question that could spoil some shit, and nobody has ever done that to me with this series. So I appreciate that. Also, is this the first confirmation he's actually from the Void Century? I think before they've only ever said he was from the past. He was from a tumultuous time or something like that. Either way, I think we're getting the Void Century flashback pretty soon. I'm an optimist. Kill me. Who knows? It could be years from now, but I'm an optimist. Also, I think it's interesting that Joy Boy people. I've been conflating Joy Boy and Nika. They sound like they're two different entities. Now, some people are saying Joy Boy is a reincarnation of Nika. I've been using the two words interchangeably, and I don't think that's accurate. He fought with an elastic body, just like Nika, the sun god from giant mythology. So, Nika may not have ever even lived. Like, that's just mythology. He could have been a fruit power user from way back, right? Or, considering we have a Void Century, and Joy Boy's from the Void Century, maybe the Nika, and, so we're talking about that was 900 years ago. We have mythologies that are younger than 900 years. So it's possible the giant mythology is talking about Joy Boy, right? Like they just called him Nika instead of Joy Boy. We don't, because here's the thing: you have history stretching back to 800 years ago. Are we saying that we also know history from 900 years back? Like we know history further back? I know they call it a void century. They don't call it a void forever. So we must have some history from further back. We just don't know what happened in that 100 years. So it could be their mythology extends beyond the void century. I don't know. I just think, these things tend to get mixed up and interwoven and interchanged and all that shit. There was a bunch of different mythologies and stories that congealed into King Arthur and Camelot and the Round Table and all that shit. Those are different mythologies that all congealed together. You can go back to a time when they were separate. So I just wonder if there was one mythology about a sun god, then Joy Boy happens and that kind of got woven into the mythology about the sun god. Or, like I said, they're just two different things. I'm going to be more careful which one I use, considering that they're calling this out as something different. He was the first man in this world of the sea, the first pirate, Joy Boy. So it's only been going on for 900 years. That's interesting. This was one hell of a callback. DeMalo Black, I would have lost that trivia contest. What was the name of the fake Luffy? I would have lost that 100 times out of 100. I would never have gotten that. He looked the same to me. I don't remember him looking like this. I remember he was fat. Maybe he's fatter now. I don't know. He's only read a couple of the Poneglyphs, but what was inscribed on them was a record of an enormous great war. History is like poetry. It rhymes. We're about to have that again, I think. By the way, I was going to talk about this in this rewind, so here we do it. I remember thinking about this during the reaction. Look at this water. It's low in the middle and wide on both sides. Now, this I think, is just camera perspective, but it's really weird and unsettling, and I don't like it. I think this episode's kind of unsettling anyway, but it's like if you were sitting here in the ocean, you saw the water rise on both sides, you would feel like there's a tsunami coming or something, right? Like, look at that. That's an unnatural formation of water for it to rise up on both sides like that. I don't like it. I don't know if it's an animation error. I doubt it. I think they just want us to feel unsettled, right? See, now the water looks normal, right, in this shot. Yes, that means you. He fought against you. It's like... Joy Boy fought against the world government of today. This moron's like, what? That means us? To be more precise, it was the precursor of the world government. Interesting. The temporary coalition consisted of 20 kingdoms. I wonder if this is the first ever attempt at a world government. Probably so, I think. There was an existential threat big enough that they formed a government together, rather than being various nations. It could be argued that Joy Boy's party was so strong it compelled him to join forces. He must have had a wrecking crew with him, because it wasn't just him. It was probably all the strongest fruit powers we can think of these days, right? Intimidating shit, and so that they had to form a government just to oppose this sumbitch. a clash of ideologies rather than a matter of good and evil. And it probably was. Is probably one ideology is people should be free, and the other ideology is a few people should make decisions for everybody else. Clash of ideologies, not necessarily good versus evil, but I know which side I'm on. Joy Boy was born into a civilization unbelievably advanced for its time 900 years ago. Now, here's the question. It was unbelievably advanced for its time 900 years ago. So, for instance, if you were to take that civilization and just move them forward in time 900 years, would they be primitive now? Because some of the South American tribes, the Native American tribes, were really advanced for their time. Moving forward, they'd be the most primitive civilizations in the world today. But they were super advanced for the time. They were way ahead of everybody else, right? There were Arab countries, Middle Eastern countries during the Dark Ages of the European Dark Ages. Middle Eastern countries were way ahead of them in technology, astronomy, science, math, medicine. They were way ahead. And so, but if you take one of those civilizations and put them forward here, they'd be lost. They'd be way behind the rest of us. So I'm just curious. Are we talking about a civilization that be advanced even for today? I don't think so. He said advanced for its time. Which is important because we don't want to overhype the civilization. They're advanced for the time, that's one thing, but we can't be sitting there thinking that they had rocket ships and time travel and, technologically speaking. Laser guns and all this shit. They may have just had shit we have now, but back then, 900 years ago, when other people didn't have that shit. That's why I think the situation is. The weapons that existed during that century-long war. Now, some of this stuff could be more advanced even to today, because those weapons are the ones that people are trying to find today. They're pretty advanced, right? That is another interesting thing, though. That seems to contradict what I just said, so I'm not sure. I'm keeping an open mind about it. We're apparently beyond the capacity of modern science to create. So, in that way, they were more advanced than we are now. But he actually said the words for its time, unless the translation is wrong. I gotta remember, we are talking, he's not speaking in English, he's speaking in Japanese. So, English subtitles are a translation. So, I shouldn't put too much weight on any particular phrase, I think. That's where the problem was. He said they had technology back then that I can't reproduce. That's where the problem lies. So what that tells me is they had a way to prevent the rising oceans that we don't have. And that's a problem. They prevented the rising oceans 900 years ago, and now whatever they did was so bad that the government had to erase the existence of it. But now, or they caused it 900 years ago. They did something. They unleashed a weapon so powerful it started a chain reaction. They used a weapon so powerful it started a chain reaction that has been building for 900 years that will then now destroy all humanity who can't fly or float on the water. And they had the technology to start it. We don't have the technology to stop it. That's what I think he's saying. That's the problem. The problem is he still can't reproduce their technology now. So they are more advanced. I think it was just a bad translation for them to say they were most advanced of their time, right? Yeah, this is brilliant. Which I think is one of the things he's been working on to establish floating islands. He would need another 10 years to mass produce this shit, right? But he can do it here already. So that's pretty good. I also like the X. If they drop down the X's, they hit the ground and they're done. The O is good. The X is bad. Well, that's it. Another great episode. I'm about to go watch the next one. I don't know. These rewinds they take so long to do. For the amount of screen time you actually see, it takes 2 or 3 times as long. Because I'm sitting there thinking about the shit. I'm going back and forth. I'm contemplating stuff like this. And I don't really have a 2-3 hour block of time to devote on one video, right? So that I tend to put it off. And then I end up, I can't put it off anymore, so I have to do it. So I need to come up with a better schedule. But I'm about to do the next one. Maybe I can try to get to the rewind tonight. Save the Q&A for later so I can have some comments coming on this video before I do the Q&A. Maybe that'll be what I do. Yeah, that'd probably be a better way to do things. But for this video, that's a wrap.